everyone, it's Ashley and welcome to my top books of 2016. In past years, I've done like top 14 of 2014 and top 15 of 2015, but to be honest, I didn't read 16 novels in 2016. Yeah, 2016 was a bit of a rough year for me. The end of 2015 was also a very rough time for me, personally. But anyways, skip. What? I'm currently babysitting one of my best friend's dogs over the holidays so she could go home and see her mom, and he's like the cutest dog ever. If you follow me on Snapchat, I like snap him all the time. I'm gonna be like devastated when I lose him. Right, so I didn't read 16 books in 2016, so I obviously can't do a top 16 of 2016, so I decided to just do my top 5 books from 2016. A lot of the things I read this year were actually really good. I gave really high stars to them. I didn't bother reading a lot of things that I didn't think were really good. It was still really hard to pick these 5, and I'm really excited about them. I also have 2 honorable mentions that I will mention at the very end. And for the first time ever, I'm actually putting the books in order. I have a top 5 where I have like a 5th favorite, a 4th favorite, etc., and then like an ultimate favorite of the year. And I've never done that before, so I'm really excited about that. Let's get started. Okay, coming in the 5th spot is This Savage Song by Victoria Schwab. I loved this book so much. This is pretty much tied with The Thing in 4th place. They're pretty much dead on tied. I love this book so much. It's about this world where like just the whole book is just about what it means to be a monster. Like, are monsters monsters because we say they are, or are they monsters because they do monstrous things? And it's about this human that wants to be monstrous and this monster that just wants to be a human. And it takes place in a world where when you commit a monstrous act, so like if you kill someone or you just do something terrible, it creates a literal monster that exists in the universe. And it's so good. It's so good. If you haven't read this book yet, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Please pick it up. It's just so good. In the 4th spot, which is actually kind of like the 5th spot because it's tied with This Savage Song, is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I can't believe it took me this long to read this book. People kept telling me to read this book. People kept telling me it would be amazing, and I just kept putting it off, but it was phenomenal. If you know anything about me, you know that I am like a sucker for like multiple narrated novels, like dual narrated or just like multiple characters' perspectives. This book is like my dream. It's so good. It has multiple characters with multiple perspectives. They're all very different. They all kind of like have different thought processes, and so many characters to love. The plot was amazing. The writing was really good. I know that everyone in the world tells people to do this, but I'm telling you, probably for the millionth time, just read Six of Crows. It's so good. In the 3rd spot, we have Winter by Marissa Meyer. This book is the 4th and final book in the Lunar Chronicles series by Marissa Meyer. Honestly, just this series is one of my favorite series of all time. It's just so good. I'm saying that about every book in this video, but it's obvious it's my favorites video, so like I'm going to be saying that about every single book in this video. But Winter was really good. It took me forever to finish it. I didn't want to finish it because I didn't want the series to be over for me, but I really liked it. It came together really well. I found that like the author just like, she did a really good job of like encompassing the whole series and having like a solid, solidified ending to the series that I really liked personally. And also I loved Winter's perspective. I loved everyone's perspective. This is another book series with multiple characters that are all well developed, that all have their own amazing perspectives. And if you don't know what the series is about, it is a dystopian futuristic fantasy novel that kind of like is a fairy tale retelling, like fairy tale retellings, but flipped over kind of on their head. And it's just like there's one big bad person versus like every single individual like quote unquote main character princess having their own like villain. It's just one main villain, and also the girls save themselves. They're totally kick butt with their own unique qualities, and they don't need no man, and yet they're still amazing love interests. It's just so good. I couldn't recommend it highly enough. We are coming in on the 2 best books that I have read this year, and they're just so good. Okay, so I'm sure you guys already know what's in 1st place. So 2nd place, the 2nd best thing that I read in 2016 is actually a series. I'm not going to pick just one book from the series because I actually read all 4 books back to back, so to me they all feel very like contained within one another. And that is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. This series is so good, guys. It's like every book got 5 out of 5 for me. The series probably gets like a 7 out of 5. It's so good. I loved it so much. It has multiple characters. All the characters are so well developed. The plot is intricate and weird and very different. And all the characters are very weird and different, but they all play a really vital role. And Maggie Stiefvater does this really good job of like developing every single character that she puts into the series. Like even if it's just like the smallest sub-character, they're still developed so well. And I just, between the plot and the characters, I just could not get over the series. It was so good. I had read the first 2 before this year, and then I reread them and then read the 3rd and 4th when the 4th book came out. I know a lot of people also talk about this series all the time, but I could not recommend it highly enough. It was just so good. Just so good. Just 10 out of 10. 5 billion out of 10, just read this series. And last but not least, we are coming up on my first choice for best book that I read this year. You guys probably already know what I'm going to say because I was reading it at the tail end of 2015, and I think I actually put it in my 2015 favorites video because like I hadn't finished it yet, but I already knew that it was a favorite. And then I finished it at the beginning of January, and that is my favorite, probably my favorite book of all time. I actually probably read my favorite book of all time this year, and that is Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This book is just so good, is just like the most ridiculous understatement. So I can't even say that because it was mind-blowingly amazing for me. I loved this book. Patrick Rothfuss's writing is honestly some of the best writing I've ever read in my entire life. I would forget that I had been reading for 3 hours because it didn't feel like I was reading. It felt like I was like living in a dream because the writing was just so good. The character development in this series is also ridiculously on point. He does a really good job of developing every single character you meet. Every character serves a purpose and every character is there for a reason, and it's just so good. I've never read anything like it before. It also got me obsessed with the fantasy genre, which I had never really been obsessed with before reading this book. This book is like probably the easiest 5 out of 5 I have ever given a book in my entire life because it checked off all the boxes for me. It had amazing character development, it had amazing writing, the narrator was just on point. And the character, like the sub-characters were on point, the world building and plot development, just literally everything that you look for in a book, this book had it, and it had it at like a 10 out of 10 level. It was just, I couldn't recommend reading this book highly enough, and if you're not a fantasy reader, I would still recommend reading it because I wasn't a fantasy reader before I read this book, and now it's like all I want to read. Okay, so those are my top 5 books from 2016. I have 2 honorable mentions for you guys because I loved these books and I would highly recommend reading them. They just didn't quite make the top 5 cut, and that is Wink Poppy Midnight, which was just so unique and quirky and weird, and it's also so small. You could probably finish this book in like a sitting, but it has like 3 alternating narrative perspectives, and it's just honestly so weird, but in the greatest way. I loved this book. It was just, I really wanted to include it in my favorites video because I loved it so much, and I would really recommend reading it. The author's writing style is so amazing. I'm going to read more by this author no matter what because I just like the way that she put the book together was just, it was so good. And the second honorable mention and final book of this video is Every Heart a Doorway. The concept of this book was so freaking cool. It's about what happens to kids when they go to other worlds like Alice or like Dorothy, but when they come back and they remember, but the world thinks that they're crazy because obviously you would think someone's crazy when they say that. So basically it's about what happens to those kids after they go to those places, but it's also like a murder mystery intermixed with that plot line. It was so good. The only negative downfall to this book for me was that it wasn't long enough. I felt like the author could have like delved deeper into the characters and the plot, and she just didn't. However, I did hear it's a series, so I have high hopes that like the rest of the series will be really, really good. Okay, so those are my top books from 2016. Please comment down below with some of your top books from 2016 because I really want to know what you guys loved this year because it's probably something I haven't read yet and that I could put on my TBR list. Other than that, I will see you guys soon with another video, and happy reading and Happy New Year. Bye! Where are you going? Oh my god! Oh. That was so much better.